Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Hello everybody. Today we're looking at two suttas from the Anguttara Nikaya. They're related to our meditation and our daily life. So a lot of people have come up with this question about how to integrate meditation with daily life. These two suttas were taught to Anathapindika, who was the foremost male lay donor of the Buddha. And so the first sutta is from the fours in the Anguttara Nikaya. Sutta number 61 is called Patta Kamma Sutta, which is sometimes translated as worthy deeds. And the sutta is it's talking about how to use one's wealth. What are the factors that lead to wealth? So it's mainly meant for lay people, like Anathapindika. But for those of you who know all of these great disciples of the Buddha, Anathapindika was a stream enterer. So he's not just an ordinary person, he's a noble individual, and he also had a meditation practice. So the second sutta is some further advice, and we'll get to there in a moment. It's in the fives of the Anguttara Nikaya, Sutta 176. It's called Piti Sutta. So we can translate that as joy. Piti can sometimes be translated as joy. We're following for the first sutta, Patta Kamma Sutta, we're following Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation from Sutta Central. And we won't read the whole thing, I'm going to excerpt. Householder, there are these four things that are wished for, desired, agreeable, and rarely gained in the world. What for? One thinks, may wealth come to me righteously. 2. Having gained wealth righteously, one thinks, may fame come to me and my friends and my relatives. Number 4. 3. Having gained wealth righteously, and having gained fame for oneself and for one's relatives, one thinks, may I live long and enjoy a long lifespan. 4. Having gained wealth righteously, having gained fame for oneself and for one's relatives and preceptors, living long and enjoying a long lifespan, one thinks, with the breakup of the body, after death, may I be reborn in a good destination, in a heavenly world. Okay, so 4 things that are wished for, of course. So generally in life, people want to be, sometimes they say healthy, wealthy, and wise, but here they have a wealthy, and they also wish to have wealth and good reputation for the relatives, right? And for your friends. So if you can't sort of share your good fortune, if your friends are in dire straits or they're suffering from a poor reputation, difficulty in work, then you also won't be so happy. So then the third one is this long life and good health. Long life, difficult to obtain in the world, which is something that everybody wants, whether you're a monk or a layperson or a nun. And the last one, good rebirth. And again, the good rebirth applies to everyone, not only lay people. Of course, the monks and nuns also want to attain a good rebirth in the future. So rarely gained. So we can see the difficulty of gaining the first 3, and then the third one, we trust, according to the Buddha's teaching, is quite difficult to gain a good rebirth. But for those who are keeping proper sila and practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, it's quite possible to have a good rebirth, but it's not something that's taken for granted. It's something on the whole of all existence. If you look at all the realms and all of the beings in the universe, then it's rare to have a good rebirth. So the first part of the sutta then is not that unusual. Maybe everybody can agree about that. But then the Buddha is going to go on and explain to Anathapindika what are the four methods that lead to these desirable results. And so it's a little bit, this sutta is a little unusual. It talks about 4 accomplishments in Pali Sampada. And usually we have a list of 5 accomplishments. And so we're missing one. The one that we're missing is learning. So the 4 things that we have here are faith, saddha, and sila, which is our virtuous behavior. And then there is, the chaga. Chaga is generosity. And the 4th one is panya, or wisdom. And so the first, for saddha, accomplishment in faith, the Buddha gives faith in the Buddha. So the definition here is simply faith. It lists the 9 qualities of the Buddha. And so it means a general level of faith in the Dhamma. So somebody who has at least a general level of faith, then they're going to want to follow the teachings of the Buddha. So this isn't referring to sort of the confirmed faith of a stream enterer or something, fully accomplished faith, but this is referring to just more of a simple confidence, more usual confidence. So for sila, the kind of behavior that is listed are the 5 precepts, so keeping the 5 precepts. So of course this goes together with faith. If someone takes refuge with the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, then they'll undertake the 5 precepts with that as a group altogether. And so by doing this through faith and taking these 5 precepts, then one is creating a store of good karma. And so if one's keeping these precepts, then of course the reputation will start to follow. People will understand this person keeps his or her word. This person is not going off and getting drunk and doing foolish things. This person is not stealing or killing. We can trust them with our husbands or wives. So we have the common sense application there, and also towards the good karma supportive of a good birth. Those 2. Chaga is chaga is the next one, and chaga is a little bit more than just generosity. Chaga is delighting in giving. So I'll read the translation here for chaga, the accomplishment in generosity. And what is accomplishment in generosity? Here a noble disciple dwells at home with a mind free from the stain of miserliness, freely generous, open-handed, delighting in relinquishment, devoted to charity, delighting in giving and sharing. This is called accomplishment in generosity. So you can see delighting in relinquishing, delighting in sharing and giving. So it's actually cultivating this quality to the point where it becomes an enjoyable thing, something that one might want to delight in. And so then this power of mind, while giving and sharing, it magnifies the karma. So this actually was emphasized in a different sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya that we're not talking about today, but in the Velama Sutta, in the 9, Sutta number 20, the Buddha is talking about how a gift is purified. So in that sutta, also spoken to Anathapindika. At that point, he wasn't as wealthy as previously, and so he wasn't able to offer the same quality of alms. And so the Buddha advises him that whatever gift is given, it should be given respectfully with one's own hand. What should be given is something worthwhile. You don't just give whatever you're trying to get rid of. You should choose something and then give with this right view of karma, and the results of karma. And also the recipient matters as well. So if the recipient is more purified, and especially if the recipient has attained some kind of path in fruition, if it's a noble individual, the power of the karma will be stronger. But generally, at least if the sila, the sutta doesn't mention, but generally they say in other suttas that giving to somebody who's at least keeping precepts, giving their sila, is more powerful than, for example, giving to an animal or giving to an unvirtuous person. So that's 3, right? We have our accomplishment in faith, so faith in the Buddha here, and then accomplishment in virtue, keeping 5 precepts, and then accomplishment in generosity is cultivating this quality of giving up, of relinquishing and giving to the point where you enjoy that. And the 4th one is wisdom. Now here we have something different, and now this is starting to relate more to meditation. And what is accomplishment in wisdom? If one dwells with a heart overcome by longing and unrighteous greed, one does what should be avoided and neglects one's duty, so that one's fame and happiness are spoiled. If one dwells with a heart overcome by ill will, by dullness and drowsiness, by restlessness and remorse, by doubt, one does what should be avoided and neglects one's duty, so that one's fame and happiness are spoiled. Okay, so here, if you're giving into these 5 negative qualities of mind, they lead you to act in unwholesome ways. And so these are very similar to the 5 hindrances, but the first word is different. The first word in Pali is visamma lobha, which here has been translated as unrighteous greed. But in other places it can be translated as excessive greed. The normal word for greed in the 5 hindrances is kama chanda, so sensual desire. And the other hindrances listed are similar. So this is interesting because usually the hindrances are listed in the context of samatha meditation. Especially somebody trying to attain concentration, they need to overcome these 5 hindrances. Here, this is saying that if somebody wants to have success in life, if they want to become wealthy, if they want to be healthy, they want to have good reputation for themselves and the people around them, and if they want to have a good rebirth, then they should try to overcome these qualities of mind, these negative qualities of mind. When, householder, a noble disciple has understood thus, longing and unrighteous greed are a defilement of mind, he abandons them. When he has understood thus, ill will is a defilement of the mind, he abandons it. When he has understood thus, dullness and drowsiness are a defilement of mind, he abandons them. When he has understood thus, restlessness and remorse are a defilement of mind, he abandons them. When he has understood thus, doubt is the defilement of the mind, he abandons it. So when somebody has understood how to do this and is able to do this, they're considered to be accomplished in wisdom. That's quite interesting because if you ask somebody what is wisdom, here we have this word panya, what is wisdom? Often we wouldn't have a good answer. And of course there are different answers given in the sutta and the Abhidhamma, in the commentaries, various places, but here it's this ability to understand these harmful mental qualities and the ability to abandon them. So it's wisdom in the sense that it's protecting us from ourselves, protecting us from our mind, leading us to do things that we'll regret later. So the sutta continues to the 4 appropriate uses of wealth. And this is also quite important. Sometimes people don't reflect on this much, but the 4 proper uses of wealth Actually, one of the uses of wealth is to enjoy it. And so to make yourself happy and to make your friends and workers, if you're a business person, make your workers happy, your friends and family happy. So don't be too stingy, right? You can give gifts, and you can give jewelry to your wife, or you can take your family on a trip. You can go, usually, I don't know about, depends on what country you're in, but in North America, people like to go to Disney World. Depends on where you are. So, then the second proper use of wealth is to protect the wealth. So to take precautions. In the Buddha's day, that would mean to hide the wealth, to keep it safe from kings and floods and fires. In modern day, that might mean to invest it wisely, or it might mean to buy proper fire insurance or flood insurance, whatever sort of prudent financial precautions are recommended. So then the third one we won't go through in so much detail. The third proper use of wealth is to make offerings. So it mentions things like making offerings to guests and all of these traditional offerings they would have had in India, including offerings to the devas. So actually, normally we're not required to make offerings to devas in Buddhism, but here it seems it's listed as a part of the traditional behaviors of certain people of a certain caste in India at that time. So we can sort of lump the third one together as traditional social responsibilities. Maybe I'll read the list for you here. Again, with wealth acquired by energetic striving, righteously gained, the noble disciple makes 5 oblations to relatives, guests, ancestors, the king, and the deities. This is the third case of wealth that has gone to good use. Here to the king, that could count as taxes, as paying your taxes. So, and the fourth one is dana, so giving to the monks and nuns, especially those who are practicing the Noble Eightfold Path. So here, again, with wealth acquired by energetic striving, righteously gained, the noble disciple establishes an uplifting offering of alms, an offering that is heavenly, resulting in happiness conducive to heaven, to those ascetics and Brahmins who refrain from intoxication and heedlessness, who are settled in patience and mildness, who tame themselves, calm themselves, and train themselves for Nibbana. This is the fourth case of wealth that has gone to good use, that has been properly employed and used for a worthy cause. So now we have our list of 12 in this Patta Kama Sutta. So 12 things to reflect on, and especially for this accomplishment in wisdom, something to develop. But of course, we also have to develop the ability to keep the precepts. It's not that easy to keep 5 precepts. Sometimes you have to organize your life in various ways so that you'll be able to keep them properly. And then also to develop this quality of generosity to the extent where you delight in it. That's also something that doesn't necessarily come naturally to every person. So that's our first sutta, Patta Kama Sutta. The second sutta it's a little bit unusual, and this is, in this sutta, the Buddha and Venerable Sariputta give a little encouragement or admonishment to Anathapindika to go beyond just giving and to develop his meditation. So I'll read this sutta in its entirety. This is sutta in the 5s in the Anguttara Nikaya, sutta 176, and this translation is by Ajahn Thanissaro. Then Anathapindika the householder, surrounded by about 500 lay followers, went to the Blessed One. On arrival, having bowed down to him, sat to one side. As he was sitting there, the Blessed One said to him, "Householder, you have provided the community of monks with robes, alms food, lodgings, and medicinal requisites for the sick. But you shouldn't rest content with that thought. We have provided the community of monks with these things. So you should train yourself. Let's periodically enter and remain in seclusion and rapture. That's how you should train yourself. When this was said, Venerable Sariputta said to the Buddha, "It's amazing, Lord, it's astounding how well put that was by the Blessed One." And so then, and he repeats what the Buddha said. And then he's going to make a statement about this kind of concentration. Lord, when a disciple of the Noble Ones enters and remains in seclusion and rapture, there are 5 possibilities that do not exist at that time. The pain and distress dependent on sensuality do not exist at that time. The pleasure and joy dependent on sensuality do not exist at that time. The pain and distress dependent on what is unskillful do not exist at that time. The pleasure and joy dependent on what is unskillful do not exist at that time. The pain and distress dependent on what is skillful do not exist at that time. When a disciple of the Noble Ones enters and remains in seclusion and rapture, these 5 possibilities do not exist at that time. So the sutta concludes with the Buddha's his approval of what Venerable Sariputta has mentioned about jhana, about concentration. So we have this interesting thing. So the Buddha and Venerable Sariputta are advising the lay people to practice meditation, and seclusion and rapture is talking about samatha meditation in this particular sutta. And then our list of these 5 different things that don't arise. So based on things, either pleasure or pain, based on sensuality, they won't occur when somebody is practicing deep meditation, because they're not thinking about sensual things. They've withdrawn themselves from sense pleasures, and also the pain associated from sense objects, the sensual objects. And then we have also based on the unwholesome. So sometimes when you pursue something in an unwholesome way, you become happy. So you may delight in taking revenge or something like this. Or you may have pain, and you're taking revenge and you have pain because you feel angry when you're doing it. So neither of these things will arise when the mind is purified in concentration. And also sometimes pursuing the wholesome. So for example, keeping 5 precepts, this can be difficult. And there can be a painful sense of loss. I missed the opportunity to go to that Christmas party or something because people would be drinking there. Whatever sort of difficulties arise in trying to follow the wholesome, or here it's called skillful actions, kusala actions. So that won't arise. But the pleasure, the 6th one would have been the pleasure sort of associated with wholesome actions. And that does arise, of course, because the pleasure of meditation will arise. So those are our 2 suttas today. I hope that you will be able to gain these kinds of desirable things that are rarely gained in the world, and then that to develop these 4 things that lead to that state, these 4 accomplishments, and then also to develop your meditation so that you may be able to abide in a wholesome happiness that's far from these various sorts of pleasure, of unwholesome pleasure and pain. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.